Alright guys, so now that we have looked at what Bootstrap 4 offers as far as classes and utilities, widgets, now we're going to jump in and we're going to start to create our projects. So with the sandbox, we just used a CDN, which means that we included the remote Bootstrap 4 link to the CSS, the JavaScript, and the dependencies. Well, for the projects, we want to take a more professional approach and we want to create a workflow to build our projects from source. Okay, so we're going to install Bootstrap 4 along with all the dependencies using NPM or Node Package Manager. And we're going to create something called the Bootstrap 4 Starter Pack. So it's going to allow us to build from source, compile our Sass, and it's also going to give us a dev server to work with. Now, if you really don't want to go through this section and build it, you can clone it or you can download it from this GitHub repository, but I would highly suggest going through and creating it so you can really grasp how all of this works. Alright, so this is the Bootstrap 4 starter pack here. Now make sure you're using the beta version. I do have a BS4 starter _ alpha 6 if you are watching the alpha 6 version. But this is the latest version. So if we take a look at the package.json file, you'll see that we have gulp, we have gulp Sass, and we have browser sync, which is going to allow us to have an autoload dev server. These are our dev dependencies. And then for our regular dependencies, we of course have Bootstrap. We're using version 4 beta. Font Awesome, jQuery, and Popper, which are dependencies of the Bootstrap JavaScript. Okay, so those are our dependencies. And then if we look at the gulp file, basically gulp is a task runner where we can use it to do a lot of different things, but in this case we're using it to compile Sass and inject it into the browser. So that's the task for that. We're going to create a task to move all of the JavaScript files from the node modules folder to our source folder. So things like the Bootstrap JavaScript file, jQuery, Popper, we want that stuff in our source file locally. And then we're going to create a task to watch and serve our files in a browser. And we're also going to create some tasks to move the fonts folder from node modules, Font Awesome, and also to move the CSS Font Awesome file to our source folder. Okay, we want everything locally in the source folder. And then finally, we just have our default task, which is going to call all of this and run it. Okay. And let's see what else. If we look in the source folder, we have an index.html file where we reference all of the compiled and all the local files. And we also have an SCSS folder where we'll have our Sass. Okay, so we can actually use variables and stuff like that in our Sass file. Alright, so that's what we'll be doing in this section. This is a really important section. Again, you don't have to go through it. You can just download this if you want and continue on with the projects. But again, I'd highly suggest going through it and really seeing how this stuff comes together and how you can build a nice workflow for Bootstrap 4. Alright, so that's it guys. Let's go ahead and get into the next video.